Hey everybody, I'm the Midwest Hack, and today we're going to start in on a project with this 575XP. This saw belongs to Ryan, a friend of mine. It's got a stripped out spark plug hole. He had or somebody had done some work to try and fix it. They put one of these threaded inserts that adapts the spark plug up, basically to a bigger size. You drill and tap the cylinder and away you go. But something went wrong with that. I haven't looked at it very close yet, but he asked me to take a look at it. So here it is. Instead of trying to do machine work on that cylinder, I actually found a used piston and cylinder assembly that's in good shape. We're going to actually just swap that over. While we're at it, since I can't seem to leave well enough alone, we're going to look at hot rodding this saw a little bit. Looks like there's room to take the base gasket out to bump the compression up a little bit. We'll check all the port timing and see where it's actually at. The 575 isn't known for being a real powerhouse. And I can't find a whole lot of information on porting it. So we're going to check and see what the port timing is and maybe try some stuff. The rest of these saws, almost all of them have projects coming up in the near future. So we'll see how that all goes. This 024 belongs to a different friend of mine, but I think we're probably going to leave that alone. He didn't ask for anything to be done to it. This 391, we just fixed the throttle and choke linkage. It was actually missing a choke rod, so it's all back together and running now. Stick around. I'll clear these out of the way, bring you in closer, and we'll get started on teardown of that 575. All right, guys, this isn't going to be a step-by-step teardown video. I'm probably just going to speed it up through this, but I'm going to get started here, pull a few things off. I don't have much time tonight, so I'm just barely going to get a start. Top cover out of the way. I noticed while taking this off that there's a hole melted through it. So then when I got to looking closer, the spark plug boot is ruined. It was actually melted a hole through the cover, so we'll replace that too. Air filter. And the spark plug that fits loose in there. There's still an insert in here. I'm likely just going to wait to pull that out. Oh yeah, that doesn't even thread. It's just kind of laying in there. You can't pull it out. It's stuck enough that it doesn't want to just pop out. But it also, when you try and thread it, it doesn't actually move. So that's going to end up sitting there for now. All right, y'all, I am back. I did some work off camera. I got the timing wheel set up on the saw, and I got the timing and squish numbers checked. I started out with, of course, the cylinder that was on the saw, the one with the stripped out spark plug hole. The squish on this with the base gasket is still on here, measured at 42 to 43 thou, so a little bit on the lazy side. Not going to get a lot of cylinder turbulence with that. Without the base gasket, the used cylinder, the good used one that I got, does not have a base gasket on it right now, so it checked out at 25 thou. Much better number. That's pretty much right where I was hoping I would get. Exhaust timing on this one, with the base gasket in place, checked at 102 degrees. On this one, it checked 107 degrees. Transfers went 115 on this one. So the difference there is 13 degrees of blowdown. And on this one, the transfers checked at 119. So with the 107, that brings us to about 12 degrees of blowdown. So 12, 13 degrees, that didn't change. That's about what you would expect with that. Intake timing on this one, checked at 70 degrees or 140 degrees of total intake duration. Interestingly, this one checked at 70.5. So removing the base gasket should have changed my intake timing a little bit, and it's a half a degree different, but it's not significantly different like we saw in the exhaust and the transfers. So not real sure what to make of that. Must be a little bit of difference in the castings. I did check back and forth several times, and the numbers seem to be good. So it's just the way these are measuring. So 140 to 141 degrees total intake timing with this one. Now, what are we going to do with those numbers? For squish, we're going to leave it right at 25 thou. Not going to do anything else. Just going to put it together without a base gasket. With the sealant in there, it's probably going to increase it another couple thou, but it'll be right in that ballpark. Exhaust timing, currently at 107. I'm going to take a little bit out of the top of the exhaust port to bring that back down to probably 101, or that's what I'm going to shoot for. Transfers I'm leaving alone. I am not getting into the transfers in this saw. After looking this thing over and seeing what these transfers, how they come up through the case, I'm just not going to get into that. Not on this one. The 575 is not known as a performance saw anyway. Just trying to spruce it up a little bit, so I'm not going to get into that. Intake timing is at 141 on this saw. Probably going to shoot for about 152. I may not go that far. That seems like a pretty drastic increase. But we'll see what we end up with. We'll kind of see how it goes. I am going to take a look at the width of the intake port, compare that with what's available on the piston. I don't have the piston. Oh, I do have a piston sitting right here. The width of this is what determines the maximum width that my intake port can be. So I'm going to do some measurements there, see if I can widen the intake a little bit, but probably not going to do too much on that. As far as the other mods to the saw, it's going to get an exhaust mod. I haven't decided if I'm going to build a pipe yet or just modify the muffler, but we'll see how that goes. But we're going to get after it. I'll get some grinding done, check out what the numbers actually are, and I'll get back with you. I've got the porting done on this cylinder now. Of course, I didn't do any machining to the base of the cylinder, so squish is still the same as where we had checked it previously. It's at 25 thou. The exhaust port, I did raise the roof on that some. I set that timing at 101.5 is where I ended up. The transfers, I checked those again. Those checked, the second time I checked them, ended up at 118. I had previously measured them at 119. I am having trouble getting a good sight in through the spark plug hole to see the transfers. So 118, 119. Yeah, I might be off by a degree or two here or there. I am not changing that timing anyway. I'm leaving that alone. So that's more of just an FYI, where is it actually sitting type of thing. The intake timing, I lowered the floor of the intake port to increase that timing. It is sitting at 76 degrees or 152 degrees of total intake timing. Probably a touch higher than I really wanted to go. I had it on and off several times, took a little bit more, and then like the third time I was like, ooh, that went a ways there. But still 152 is okay. This size saw, I would generally shoot for like 155. I did not want to go too far on this saw since the transfers on it seem to be so tiny, but I'm happy with where it turned out. We're gonna see how it does. The other thing I did is the piston ring. I'm gonna go with one ring in this saw. I did turn this into a low tension ring. Took it from a depth of about 85 thou. Nope, 83 thou is where I started, and I took it down to about 65 thou. So that'll make this a low tension ring. We'll see how that does. If it doesn't work, I got more rings here. We'll take it back apart and put the rings, put different rings back in it. Next up, I've got some of the intake parts cleaned. I'm going to bring you in closer. We're going to start to put those together. We're going to get those assembled on the cylinder. And then I will move on to cleaning some more parts, and we'll move on to the next assembly step. These parts are all cleaned up now and ready for assembly. I don't know how much you're going to be able to see. I got you in as close as I could while still being able to work. Some of this stuff is a little bit fidgety to get together, so I guess we're going to have to kind of see how it goes. All right, so let's get started. Impulse line. Now the carburetor. There are several things that have to line up here. We've got the choke lever fits into a slot. You've got the 2 ports for strato. You've got an impulse nipple here that fits into a hole. Kind of all has to go together at once. All right, that assembly's all together. I'm going to get back to cleaning the crankcase. Once that's clean, we'll work on putting this in. I've got the crankcase all cleaned up now. I did a thorough scrubbing of the sealing surfaces. The cylinders got a real thin coating of sealant on it. Got the ring in place. We're going to try and get this cylinder to slide on and see how it goes. There we go. Now that they won't be sticking down in my way, I think I'm going to drop the bolts in. And we're down. And that's just going to, I'll just leave that to set up and cure for a little bit. I screwed the spark plug into the cylinder just to close that hole up, keep any debris from getting in there. I'm also just going to real quick put the muffler on. It's not going to stay on since I'm doing a muffler mod on this, but I just want to keep anything from getting in that exhaust port. I'll go ahead and put the bottom screws in too, just to keep track of them for now. Plenty good for that. I got the handle cleaned up. That's going to go on next. Throttle cable wiggled into place. The fuel line, supply line. And the tank vent. And work on getting the throttle cable wiggled into place. The wire's hooked back up for the kill switch. There we go. Only a few parts left to get this thing back together. I think the first thing I'm going to do is get the spark plug wire routed back up where it's supposed to go. This still needs to be replaced, or at least the boot does. But it should work good enough for a test fire. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in place. Dirty air filter back on. We'll get that cleaned up or replaced too. Did a little bit of cleaning on the starter. We'll get that put back on. Okay, I think that's enough assembly. We're ready to put a little fuel in it and see if it'll fire. The muffler's all finished up, or the pipe is all finished up, I should say. Let's get this thing put on. We'll get a smear of silicone put on this just to help take up any gaps. Yeah, the silicone will probably burn, but usually the residue in there still keeps it sealed fairly well, and then we'll get it put on. Okay, so there you have it. The muffler's had a little bit of, or the sealant has had a little bit of time to set up on that pipe. Let's start this thing up and see how it sounds. This is going to be a cold start. We'll see how it does. Well, as you can hear, I got a little bit of tuning left to do, but yeah, it's loud. It's not horribly loud, certainly not like that straight pipe being on there. I'm anxious to get this thing out and do some cutting with it. As soon as I get a chance to get over to my buddy's place, we'll get a bar on this, and I'll get you some footage of cutting. Well, y'all, I've been waiting to wrap up this video until I get a chance to get this saw in the woods. While I was waiting, some of the miscellaneous little small parts showed up, so I thought I might as well just bring you in while I do a quick change out on these. Nothing real groundbreaking here, but I thought I'd bring you along for the ride. First up's a new spark plug. I ended up putting some electrical tape on this spark plug boot just to keep it from arcing, since it had already done damage to the cover. I didn't want that to get worse. probably a real easy way to remove these the remnants of these clips, but I'm not familiar with that just yet. So I'm fumbling around here. Works for me. That should be it. I think that saw is ready for a bar, and hopefully we can get that in the wood tomorrow. All right, y'all, there you have it. I'm really happy with the way that saw turned out. It cuts really nice. Ryan thought it cut really nice. In fact, he said that he thought that 575 now would hang right in with his 390. That's going to wrap this video up. I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope you maybe learned something, and I hope to see you on the next one.